Hello, everyone. You are in for such a special treat today. I'm super, super, super excited. We're doing like kind of this extravaganza of stuff today, and I'm going to just check and make sure that we are actually going live because something went a little weird last time, and I'm hoping it is not going wrong this time. And it might be. So, because I'm getting, oh, no, one person is here, so maybe it's actually happening. Okay, let me try and refresh again. Yes, we're live. Okay, good. So I did this and went on for a few minutes earlier in the week, and it just didn't go live, so we had to start somewhere else. And now there are a lot of people here. You guys are awesome. Welcome, Apple and Adriana, and I'm going to try and do this correctly. So we have two lovely special guests who are just two of my favorite humans as well. They're just really good people. I talk about them often, and I'm going to try and say Angela's name correctly, which is Fischetti. Okay. Whoa! It's a big win for me today because you guys know I can't pronounce anything. So she is a lovely member of our community that runs Boomer and Beyond Wellness. And she's going to show us how to do some stuff because I don't know about you, but I need to know how to do some exercise stuff because I can get, if it's something I've done and I can add on to it, I'm very good. If it's something I'm learning new, like weights make me very nervous, not because I can't move my arm like this, but because I don't always know all the things. So I really appreciate you being here. And before we go to self-introductions, Vicki Brett-Gach, you guys have seen here before, and I always feel like I'm saying your last name wrong too, but hopefully it's close. Okay.
You said it perfectly.
And Vicki is health coach. She is a wonderful whole food plant-based recipe developer. You guys see her come on at least once a year, sometimes twice a year for the bundle and just other little things that we do together. And now I would love it if you guys would introduce yourself. So Angela, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Angela Fischetti, and yes, you got the name right, Kathy. Thank you. And I have
Yay!
been, yay for Kathy. And I've been in the fitness and wellness community professionally since I was mentoree back in 1988, and officially in 1990, I entered the fitness field. And then when I was the ripe old age of 59, I graduated from massage therapy school here in Florida. So my fitness and wellness journey has been going on a long time, as well as my plant-based journey began back in 1987. So I love the diet and the lifestyle, and it allows me the opportunity to meet wonderful people like you, Kathy, and my colleague, Vicki Brett-Gach. It's been a pleasure working with her on this presentation. So thank you both.
And Vicki, let's hear it from your own mouth, all the wonderful things that you've done.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you, Kathy, for having us. And Angela, it's a treat working with you on this project. I'm Vicki Brett-Gach, and I am a blogger at AnnArborVeganKitchen.com. I create recipes, and I share them through my newsletter. And I am also a certified personal chef and a plant-based culinary instructor. And I also work one-on-one with people as a master vegan lifestyle coach and educator, helping people transition to a whole food plant-based lifestyle. And I do find, this is one of the, I feel like it's my mission and the love of my life to be able to work with people, helping them find ways to make eating healthy easy. And so that's kind of my thing, is trying to make eating healthy easy. I'm also the author of the Plant-Based for Life cookbook, which is has over 100 recipes, and each of them has a full color photograph next to them. And these are also very healthy, easy recipes that can make life a little bit easier in your kitchen.
I love that. So now you guys can kind of see why I like them so much. Aren't they awesome? They're kind of like warm and inviting. And I'm saying that, and Angela may kick our butts, and I don't even know it yet. But I said, but see, that's my nervousness about exercise too, right? So know that. So just know if you're feeling a little bit like, I'm not sure what's going to go on. Remember, this is recorded, so you can watch her this time or work along. I'm going to let her decide what you should do. But I'm giving you options because I'm the queen of options, right? And as soon as this is over, you'll have the replay. So if you're like, that was amazing for a while, you can come back and do it every morning for a while too. So just know that. And I'm trying to, the reason I'm a really good teacher is I'm not the best student because I get all nervous, I get all caught in my head. So just take a deep breath. It's going to be so much fun, and we get to spend such wonderful time. So, Angela, are you ready to start off with your presentation?
I'm ready to go, girl.
All right, we're highlighting you, and I'm going to mute myself.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much. And it's also an absolute honor to be presenting here today. So what we're going to be doing here today is a duo demonstration, strengthen and nourish for life. So I'm taking care of the strengthening part, and Chef Vicki Brett-Gach is taking care of the nourishing part. So what I'm going to present here is something that, to be absolutely honest with you, I wish I would have known about this approach to strength training when I began my career back in 1988. However, you live and learn, right? And so this is a compound movement, total body workout with supersets and planks. What does that all mean? All right, compound movements mean that you're working multiple large muscles and multiple joints simultaneously. Therefore, that is information right away, letting us know that exercise is never reductionist. It's never just that one muscle at a time. Supersets means working two different exercises back to back without any rest. And planks, well, there's something that I pulled from yoga because planks are quite popular now in fitness as well. And everything that I'm going to teach you is a compound movement, no isolation movements. Now, why? Because science backs up compound movements in building both bone and muscle strength. I'm going to be 67, and I can't mess around with not knowing what is the best approach for me at this point in my life. I did have osteoporosis. I was diagnosed with it. I was either 59 or 60. And by the age of 63, I was able to downgrade to age appropriate osteopenia. Why do I put it like this? Because osteoporosis is, well, it's a diagnosis, right? And it's a pathology. And typically when it's written out, it's with an uppercase O. I say age appropriate osteopenia because it is normal to lose bone density and estrogen as we get older. It's not something to be fearful about. However, I'm not cocky about this because it took me 3.5 years to downgrade. I don't want osteoporosis to return. So I continue with many tips, many different approaches to strength training, but the core of all of my work is founded in compound movements. And that's what I want to bring to the audience, Kathy. It's super important that they understand how to do this. Now, the accessories we'll be using today will be a sticky yoga mat. Also, I'll be using what's known as a fit ball. It's also, you can use a Pilates 9-inch ball. And also, for those of you who are afraid to lift the weights, it's a good tool to use to hold and maintain your form when you're working out. I'll also be using a wedge, an exercise wedge. Now, when you stand on a wedge, your toes are on this side, and then your heels are up here. And this is what it looks like. And the reason for the wedge is because for some of you, you have knee issues, and standing on a wedge to do a squat could be very helpful. Now, this is what is meant by plantar flexion. I'm pointing the foot down. This is what is meant by dorsiflexion. Plantar side of the foot is the top part. Underside is the dorsal side. I'm going to give you a little hack. I'm going to show you how you can create your own wedge. It's not 100% perfect, but if it means you're not going to do the workout, I want you to do this with the hack, okay? So I'm going to take 2 weights and we're going to hold. What I'm holding on to is the bar. So I place the weights down so that the collars of the weight, that would be the heads of the weight, the inside heads are touching each other. Now I'm going to come around the front because you never want to mount a wedge from behind stepping over it, especially with heavier weights and all that. You don't want to do that. So now I'm going to put my heels onto the bars, not the arches of my shoes. And then I bring my heels right up into the inside edges of the bars of the weights, so that when I do a squat, I still have that type of plantar flexion. It's not 100% plantar flexion because the toes are bent, but hey, it's a wonderful alternative for you. I will also be using, what you can see is an adjustable workout bench. Must you use that? No. There's one exercise where we will be supine, which means you'll be on your back face up. You can choose to use the floor. Folks, if you can't get to the floor, feel free to use your bed. Any surface that we can make it comfortable for you is what this is about. I will also be using, I have weights. I have a pair of 18 pounders. I have one 20 pounder and a pair of 25 pounds. No, you don't have to begin there. You can begin with nothing, which we will be incorporating how to move the body without any of the weights as well. And then finally, you'll see underneath my bench, I have a folded hand towel. Now, for those of you who are medicated or not for hypertension, you have vertigo or GERD. When you do the exercise where you'll be on your back face up, supine, I want you to have your head slightly lifted. I don't want a big pillow under your head, nothing like that, but just a subtle elevation, because you know with vertigo, you might get dizzy with your head flat. So these are the conditions, and with GERD, you might have a backup. With that head slightly elevated, that should help you when you're exercising on your back. Now, this moves me right into the precautionary measures and medical disclaimers. Folks, this will be the chattiest part of my presentation, and frankly, the most important part, because I'm about to list a number of chronic health concerns that can be affected by the exercises if not executed properly. And I'm going to give you the modifications and adjustments now so that when we go into the workout with the weights, you can apply this. So I'm going to begin with the mat, the fit ball. They're made out of latex. So if you have a latex allergy, you do want to look for non-latex or latex-free. Also, if you have any knee issues, and this would be particularly with bending the knees, flexion of the knees, well, there's an alternative, because I'm going to show you squats, deadlifts, and lunges. Now I'm going to step back here. I'm going to be far away, but you're going to get the idea here because I have a bit of a wall that I can show you. What you folks can do for the squat work, etc., is go sit up against a wall. It's called a wall seat or a wall sit. And I have my ankles slightly forward of the knees. Then I line up the ankles to the knees all the way up to the high hip bone, the iliac crest. And it's great to help those of you with the knee issues, but also if you have, if you've been told not to bend down and pick up something, not to flex the spine. So any back spine issue with flexion, this can include, but not exclusive to, osteoporosis of the spine, as well as hyperkyphosis. So this would be where it's a postural deviation, where you're a bit hunched in appearance. Use the wall. for your squats. This way we can completely omit the flexion for you. I'm going to continue on here. If you're medicated or not for hypertension, have GERD or vertigo, you already know about the towel when you're lying down on your back. However, I want you to avoid this position of the neck. I don't want you to drop your head down. I'd like you to keep your head neutral. Now, conversely, for those of you who have had a transient ischemic attack or a stroke, I'm going to be doing something just to offset some of the forward flexion during the work. I'm going to be showing you a back bend. It doesn't matter how big or small the back bend is, but it matters the position of the cervical spine of the neck. So the cervical spine of the neck, I love going for it and dropping the head back. It is totally capable of hyperextension. Not for TIA or stroke people, please. I'm going to ask you to keep your chin head neutral. Now, if you have osteoporosis of the hip or you've had a hip replacement, I'm going to be doing an exercise called a lateral lunge. So I'm going to step out wide and then step back in. You may have been told not to stand with the legs really wide apart. You pay attention to that information, please. Otherwise, go to the wall. You can control it. Also, if you have carpal tunnel syndrome, I need you to avoid this wrist position. I don't care where the arms are. I do not care. But I do care that this is wrist extension. So you don't want to go into that position for carpal tunnel. I've got a couple of options for you during the workout. Also, I'm just checking my notes here. Yes, vestibular challenges. So this would be challenges to balance. That lateral lunge is considered a unilateral exercise. So I'm going to suggest for people with vestibular challenges, keep the work bilateral, both legs working at the same time. You could use the wall, but one other strong piece of advice, never work out by yourself. Always have a companion with you if you have balance issues while working out. Also, if you have golfer's elbow, which is medial epicondylitis, or tennis elbow, lateral epicondylitis, bicep tricep work. So bicep, the front of the upper arm, tricep, the back of the upper arm. These could be issues for you. So I'm going to ask you to get additional medical advice to find out if bicep and tricep work would be appropriate for you. And do I have anything else here? I have a big cheat sheet I'm looking at, but I think we covered it all. Yes, we did. So now, all of these are chronic concerns. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you have any of these issues I've mentioned or not, is to please preview the video before participating. But I'm going to ask you to broaden your perspective and look for what you can do. However, if you're not sure, then I would invite the medical healthcare practitioner who knows your body best to preview the video as well to help you make an informed decision, because it's about being informed, not second guessing. My aunt's son advised this through the neighbor and told me, forget all that. Just go straight to your medical practitioner, say, hey, here's something I'd like to try to do. Anything here that you advise I don't do? And I do think that would be the healthiest way to approach it for you. Now, a few reminders. Always feel free to stop and rest whenever you need to during any workout. However, I am not inviting you to quit. So you stop, take a couple of breaths, and return to the work, even if it's just for one more repetition, because this is how you will get stronger. Also, make sure you keep yourselves properly hydrated with water. I don't know about flavored waters, teas. All I know is what Harvard Health publishes, and they publish studies based on drinking water. Now, this can bring up some more medical disclaimers. Those of you who have bladder or kidney issues may have been told, do not drink a lot of water. You please follow that advice. Also, I'm just checking my notes here. Yes, Kathy, I have something that I would love if it could be plugged into the show notes for everybody, or to the comments, would be to look up have you Google something called a rating of perceived exertion chart. Rating of perceived exertion, RPE for short. And I like to work with the Borg 0 through 10 scale. This is an excellent tool for those of you who may not know how to take your training heart rate, who are on certain medications like beta blockers. You might have some medical issues that you have to keep your heart rate at a certain level. So this is a wonderful subjective 0 through 10 scale. I've been using it since 1990, and it's extremely helpful. So it is advised for the demographic of Cooking with Kathy Hester to work out at an RPE between 3 and 6. And finally, it is also important for those of us 55 years and above to warm up for a full 10 minutes prior to any workout. Now, on my YouTube channel, Boomer and Beyond Wellness, I have one video there, and I called it Warm Up and Cool Down, because you can interchange the movements and you would be able to give yourselves a proper warm up and a proper cool down by going to that video. And I think we've got all that stuff covered. Yes, we do. Now, what are we going to do here today with this compound movement, total body workout, supersets with planks? Well, I'm going to teach you 8 exercises vertically and without any of the equipment. We're going to do this one set of each exercise, and a set is a group of 8 to 15 repetitions. After we do that, that's when we move into the superset component, and we will be working with the weights. I just want to advise you all that we have quite a bit of inclement weather going on right now, and stuff is rattling my front door. So if you hear any of it, it's the wind outside. So we're going to begin here teaching you how to stand when you're working out. And I call it an athletic ready stance. So it's much like what I told you here up against the wall for the wall sit. We want to line up the ankles to the knees, to the inside of that high pelvic bone, and put your hands to the inside of the pelvic bone, not to the outside. Also, some people do this where they turn the fingers in. And you do also want to make sure the toes are in the same line as each other. Now, I'm going to turn to the side. A lot of times people stand, particularly females, will stand with their pelvis tipped forward like that, and they're kind of creating this back bend. So what we want to do is actually take a nice subtle posterior pelvic tilt, also known as a pelvic tuck, hold here. Now, some people get a bit extreme with this, so it's almost as if they're going to come into like this standing abdominal crunch. You don't want to do that either. So now I'm going to face you, and we're going to begin the actual work. So the first block will be squats with a bent over bilateral, meaning both sides at the same time, back row. Now, I gave you a wall seat already if you have knee issues, so you can feel free to do that. So for the basic squat, we're in an athletic ready stance. I have the toes lifted inside the shoes. I bring the arms out in front. Inhale, I sit back into a chair. Exhale, I come up, and then I take this little posterior pelvic tilt, and I'm squeezing the glute and the quadricep muscles. I'm going to show you on a diagonal here as well. Inhale, I sit back. Exhale, come up, pelvic tuck, squeeze. So I inhale and exhale through the nose, and you inhale, but exhale to come up, and the exhale is basically coordinated with your sense of effort. You want to pause at the peak of the contraction. Here's the peak of that contraction. Let's do 2 more. Exhale up, pause, chest is lifted, keep the chin up, and hold here. Now, a bent over, anything that is preceded with those words bent over, we know is inappropriate for those of you who cannot do the bending over, right? So let's all just stay upright to warm up our back muscles with this back row. So we'll do it standing. So I'm going to puff up the chest, bring the arms out in front, inhale, exhale, pull, pause. Inhale, release. Exhale, pull, pause. Now I'm going to turn my back to you because I want you to see the scapular retraction, shoulder blades being drawn down and in. However, please avoid this. A lot of people go like this with their head, a forward head posture, thinking they're getting those arms further back. You're not, and it's really not good for the cervical spine of the neck. I'm going to do 2 more repetitions here. Of course, if you want to bend over, you can. Let's do 1 more here for those of you who are playing with this position. Hold, and then we step together. The second block will be Romanian deadlifts. I didn't name it that. It's been named that literally for 100 years. And we're doing this with what I'm calling a 1-leg plank. So I'm going to show you the difference between a basic squat and a basic deadlift, because sometimes people confuse the two. So here we have the squat, right? You're sitting back into a chair. Now, a basic deadlift is this: hip hinge. The knees are bent, the head is lifted, pelvic tuck, squeeze. I'll show you one more time like this. Now, here's the Romanian deadlift. All I'm going to do is bring my legs, my feet, just a bit wider than my hips, keeping my fingers in contact with my thighs and legs. I hip hinge. That chin is lifted. For those of you, medicated or not, for hypertension, have GERD or vertigo. Remember, this is a flexion of the spine, so go to your wall and take a basic squat. Why not? So all of these movements, compound movements, affect activities of daily living, and they reflect functional movements. I'm going to go for 3 more. Inhale, exhale, up, pause. Inhale, exhale, up, pause. 1 more. And hold here. Now, for any plank position, if you don't want to go to the floor, you don't have to. You can go to a wall and put your hands up at the wall. That's okay. But for those of you who can come to the floor, I'm going to still modify it for the first round. So I'm going to come down here and we're going to do a 1-legged plank. However, I'm going to keep my knee down, 1 knee down, and bring the opposite leg out. The arms are straight, belly button is in. Now, this position right here is possibly contraindicated for those of you with golfers and tennis elbow, because the tricep is very much working here, the back of that upper arm. I want to be careful with carpal tunnel. You folks are going to make a soft fist, so you're not going to turn your fingernails in to cut yourself. It's just a soft fist. So you're going to bring your hands down, and I will hold this position for you. Now we're going to re-extend that back leg, and I'm just going to hold here for 15 seconds on each leg. What we want to avoid is dropping down into the floor. We want to push the ground away. We don't want to let that head sag down. Now I'm going to lower the back knee and the outside leg goes back. Belly button is in. I'm actually engaging that quadricep muscle. No collapsing through the hips. Just a couple of more seconds here. And we'll lower the knee down. Be careful as you slowly take your time rolling up. Now the next block will be elevated heel fit ball squats. It's a mouthful. And we're doing pullovers. So I'm going to just use the wedge to demonstrate here. We're going to take the wedge. For you folks who want to use your weights and stand on the bar, you can. And I'm going to come from the front here, back up on the wedge. I'll show you the fit ball once we work with the weights. So I'm going to sit back into the chair. Inhale, exhale, up, pelvic tuck, squeeze. Want to make sure that you come up all the way upright. And it just is a lot of work on the quadriceps. I've been practicing a lot of this for you folks, and I have to admit my quads are talking to me. They're like, she's doing that again? Pause. We're going to go for 1 more. Kathy, let me know if the banging because there's some stuff outside that's banging around. Let me know if that's too much for you.
We don't hear any of it, Angela, and even if we do, don't worry about it, but we don't hear anything now. It's live.
Great.
People just want you to be safe and happy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, now we're going to do a pullover. So the pullover is done on your back. When we get to the weights, I'll be on my bench. But I'm going to show you how to come down to the floor here. Just, 3 ways to come onto your back. So you can come onto your back one elbow at a time, but with the knees bent. Also with the knees bent, holding on to the back of your thighs, you can roll down. Or if you feel strong enough, you can bring your legs straight out in front. Belly button is in. You want to make sure that your back and your abs can handle this. Arms out in front, pointing the toes down, taking the time to roll down onto your back. Now, bend the knees. Let me just see my circumstance behind me is safe. Okay, so I'm going to interlock all of my fingers here. It's not a big squeeze, nothing like that. And I'm going to drop the thumbs to the floor over my head and come back up. Now notice I'm not really going any lower down than the sternum, the breastbone, because I've seen some people do a pullover like this. That's not really a pullover. And we're focusing here on the upper back muscles, also the latissimus dorsi, a ginormous swimmer's muscle. The deltoid muscles of the shoulders are involved, the pectoral muscles of the chest. These are big muscles, folks, thus a compound movement. I'm going to do just a couple of more movements here, a couple of more repetitions. Inhale, and the last one, exhale here. So I'm just going to roll over to one side to come on up. And now for your next and final block before we move to the weights would be lateral lunges with low planks. So here's that lateral lunge again. I want to make sure my circumstance is safe. So I step out and I close back in. So when you come out, this is hip abduction, ABD, abduction. When you close in, going toward the midline of the body, it is called hip adduction, ADD. So what I'm doing here in this workout is just trying to present different ways of hitting the body. I don't want the body to say, I know what's coming next. I want it to say, this is interesting. It's different. One more. Inhale, exhale, over. Now let's take it to the other side. And take it out. Notice the head is up the whole time. I don't drop the head down. And be careful where the eyes go, because when the eyes travel down, so will the head and the upper torso. Couple of more repetitions. One more. Inhale, exhale, close. And here we're doing the low planks. Just double checking. Yes. Okay. So now this is a great alternative for those of you with carpal tunnel, because the position is going to be with the wrist flat anyhow. So I'm lowering the elbows to the mat and I'm lining up my wrists, elbows, and shoulders in the same line. And typically this would be with both legs straight out, but for the warm up, just one leg out. I'm going to hold it for 15 seconds. Fingers are stretched wide apart, no dropping the head. If you have a hard time keeping your head up, you can put a yoga block underneath your forehead and help it to stay up that way. And then we're going to change up sides here. Looking out in front, pushing back through that back heel. No collapsing this way. Push that ground away from you. A couple more seconds. And then we're going to lower the knee down. So are you ready to add your weights? Let's play time, okay? I always look at this stuff as playtime for adults. All right, so first block, squats with bent over bilateral back row. I'll be using 25s for the squats and 18 pounds for the back row. You do what you need to do, that you're comfortable with your body in this moment, in this time, no matter what somebody tries to tell you. Okay. Athletic ready stance. Make sure my butt doesn't hit the bench. It has happened. Okay. Inhale, exhale, up, squeeze. Don't worry, I'll show you different angles. Notice I'm really pausing at the top. One more. Hold for the beat. And then I'm going to set them down. Now I'm going to grab my 18 pounders, part of my back, facing you. This one you're going to stand with your legs wider apart. If you're going to do it bent over with heavier weight. Remember, your upright position is an option. You would just go with lighter weight. One more. And slowly up. Now here's where we go to the superset, back to the squats. How about we stand on a diagonal for you this time? Athletic, ready. Inhale, exhale, up, pause. Now, why do I have the toes lifted inside the shoes? Well, it ties in your shin muscles, which need a lot of love, and we don't give it. Give them the love. So here's some love. And they're very helpful for balance and also the health of the knees. It also helps us drive up through the heels, working the posterior extensor chain of the body, your back muscles, your glutes, your hamstrings. One more. Pause. So yes, my heart rate goes up. My rate of breathlessness, you can hear it. It's all appropriate. Pause. Belly button in. No rounded back. That's why I like to keep the head up. One more. And slowly come on up. I'm going to set these to the side because I'm not going to need them. And it'll free up the bench for when I need it. Okay, the next round will be the Romanian deadlifts with the one-legged plank. So I'm using the 25 pounders here, facing you, feet wider than the hips. Remember the difference between a squat, sitting back into a chair, versus a deadlift, a hip hinge. I really like the RDLs for females because it gives us an opportunity to feel those gluteal muscles contracting. Oftentimes people fall because they have weak gluteals. Not always, but sometimes. This is a way to offset that, folks. One more. Pause. Now, here we go. We're going to tie in the one-legged plank. I'll be holding each leg 30 seconds each. Placing the ball of one foot on the back of the opposite ankle heel area. Push the ground away. Fingers stretched very wide apart. Belly button is in. Breath is in and out through the nose. No collapsing mid-body. It happens a lot. Energy back through the heel. Energy out the crown of the head and out the heart center. Eyes of the elbows, the elbow creases facing straight forward. And now change it off to the other side. How about we do it for carpal tunnel as well? And change off on the hand position. So this is a wonderful strengthener for forearms and wrists, folks, when you do it this way. But if you have osteoporosis already in the wrist forearm area, you need to find out if this would be appropriate for you or not. And are you breathing? And are you staying hydrated? And lower the leg down. I'm going to walk the hands toward me and soften the knees. Take the time to roll up. I have so much cat hair here. You can't even imagine. I vacuumed, I promise. All right, back to the RDLs. I'm sure feline lovers can understand that. Okay. Chest is up, arms plugged in their sockets, and hip hinge. Toes lifted inside the shoes. Inhale, exhale on the effort. Pause on the peak of the contraction. This is when I typically will watch Cooking with Kathy Hester and other podcast shows, listen to webinars, play great music. One more. And back down for the one-legged plank. So where are you gazing with those eyes? Down straight to the floor or down and out? I look out in front a bit. I don't want to crank my neck either to force anything, but I do want to lift it a bit, so I'm looking forward. Lift the head a bit. Are you pushing that ground away? And change it. Other side. Let's go to carpal tunnel. Help them out. There's no pressure in my thumbs, folks. Just there for a little bit of balance. Yes, you hear me breathing. I'm not playing around. And you know, when I got my diagnosis, I went right to Dr. Frank Sabatino because he understands weights. And I'm going to walk back in. And I went over my routines with him and stuff. So yeah, I checked everything. And that's what you need to do. All right, now we're going to do elevated heel fit ball squats with the pull over. So that'll work. Let me grab this, the wedge, and my fit ball. So now here's where it gets a little funny. So just be careful, all right? I'm going to take the fit ball and I'm going to bring it between my thighs, my inner thighs, but almost down to the inner knee, not completely, okay? You don't want to go so far back with the ball where it's going to pop out behind you, because that has happened to me. All right, I'm going to grab my 25-pounders. I'm going to hobble over to my wedge. Easy does it. Coming up, Angela. Okay. So I'm squeezing that ball. Now, what does the ball do? It ties in the inner thighs. It also adds to the element of cognition. All right. So the more toys you use when you train, the more it helps cognition. So I'm going to inhale, sit back, exhale, come up, pelvic tuck, squeeze. Now, folks, make sure the weights do not wander in front of your thighs when you're doing this, particularly when you're sitting back. Pause. Two more repetitions. Now be careful here, as I tell myself. So I'm going to set the weights down. And now I'm going to come onto the bench with 120-pounder. Pardon my back when I'm speaking. And this is the pull over. So we're on our third block. Now you can choose to keep your feet up on the bench if you have a back issue, or even 1 foot, or the feet down if you don't have a back issue. I'm clasping on to the top collar of the weight with both hands, one on top of the other. And now lower down behind me. Inhale, exhale, up toward the ceiling. Pause. This is also a great exercise for those of you into racket sports, into swimming. Lots of core here, folks. The abdominals are working like crazy. One more. So if you want to hold your fit ball here, you can. Hold steady. I'm going to bring the thighs up toward the weight, all right, to set it down. Back to elevated heel fit ball squats. Make sure that doesn't pop out behind me. Now, do I suggest you hobble around like this? No, all right? This is just for demonstration purposes. There's no way around it. Okay, here we go. Be careful where the weights are placed, not out in front. So it's a lot less stress on my knees. One more. And carefully come off. And back to the pull over. I'm going to mount it on this side. Think up toward the ceiling. Let's go for two more, please. This way you can roll up a bit easier. Let me set this down. And now we're going to take it into lateral lunges with a low plank. So I'm going to grab my 20-pounder again. And let's begin over here. I'm going to come in a little bit more. Notice the weight is in front of me. Two more. You don't want the weight, the leg landing out behind you when you step out, because then it's not a lateral position. I'm going to take it over to here. Make sure you can see the shoes. Okay, here we go. Now, here's a way to do it. I'm going to just see if I can, where you don't touch down. I'm not really touching the floor. I'm tapping my other leg. You see that? Or you close together. One more. And pause. Now, low plank. Remember, this is great for the people with carpal tunnel. It's a nice approach. So, again, wrist, elbow, shoulder, same line. Now, both legs. Let me step out a little bit. 1 second. I want to see if you can see. Yeah. Okay, Kathy, can you fully see me?
Yes.
Thank you. So we're going to hold here for 1 minute. Now, this is a lot of bicep work. Tremendous amount of bicep work. Again, golfer's tennis elbow, beware. Get your advice. The reason why I put it like this is because people with golfers and tennis elbow, they don't all experience the same symptoms. That's why I say just double check. Sometimes we do not get treated as individuals within the medical community. We get treated as a diagnosis. I don't dig that. It needs to be personalized. I'm resisting the floor. Yeah, I'm starting to sweat. I'm going to go for 5 more seconds. And lower the knees down. Come back in. Take your time. Rolling up. Whoo-hoo. And back to lateral lunges. My glasses are slipping off. Okay. Here we go. Yes, we've got clearance. Always check that your circumstance is safe, especially when there's a lot of equipment around. Two more. And close, other side. And then we just have one more exercise to do, the last set. And then we'll cool down a bit. One more. Whew. And now our low plank. Again, Kathy, am I okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Fingers stretched wide apart, thumbs fanned out toward each other, belly button is in. I'm also squeezing my thigh muscles. Don't want to collapse at the mid, torso, or hip area. I'm pushing back through the heels, sending energy back simultaneously, sending energy forward out the heart center, out the crown of the head. Breath in and out through the nose. When you do something of effort, if you can at times, check in where you're storing the tension in the body. And I sometimes notice my face gets kind of funky. So right now I'm just talking to you to help me relax my mouth, relax the jaw while I'm training, because it sends messages of distress to the body as well. And now let's lower the knees down. Take your time rolling up. And now, much deserved little bit of a cool down here. I will send you in the direction of the warm-up cool down video on Boomerang Beyond Wellness, and you can always do a bit of a longer cool down there if you would like. Let's do one more big shoulder roll. Now, here's the difference between a shoulder roll and an elbow pump. People do this a lot because those shoulders are really stuck. So you really want to get them up, back, and down. Now let's have you bring your arms straight out alongside of you, but notice the hands, they are in wrist extension. So carpal tunnel, you're going to straighten the hands out, reach out through the middle fingers, just stretching the entire length of the arms, literally all the way down into the wrists, palms, and fingers. And then inhale, turn the thumbs down. Exhale, interlock all 10 fingers so that you can get scapular retraction, right? Shoulder blades together. Do not do this thinking you're going further back. So if that happens, you can take a towel or a yoga strap and just bring it behind you and just bring your arms back, and you will easily open up the pectoral muscle of the chest. Now let's offset all of that forward flexion, right? Let's do that back bending. So I'm going to stand. Let me show you the front version first, and then I'll go to the side for you. So hands are going to be on the sacrum, the flat triangular plate at the low back. And you can work with your feet a bit wider than your hips. Now, here's the issue here. What's the hand doing? It's wrist extension, isn't it? So for carpal tunnel, you folks bring the hands down below the butt and just rest the hands on the back of your thigh, and your wrists will be straight. Now, what I'm going to do is soften up my knees, and then I'm going to think about sliding the sacrum, the flat triangular plate at that lower back, down toward my heels. Does it actually slide? No. But here's where we're going to be considerate of TIA and stroke. right? You're going to hold here. Now, I don't care if your back bend is here, folks. That's okay. You still have a spine extension going on. But for TIA stroke, neutral. Do not drop your head back. For the rest of us, I'm going for it. Now you can also straighten your knees if you want to. Inhale, lift the head up. Exhale, some nice big shoulder rolls. And that's what we got for you today, Cooking with Kathy Hester. Thank you all so much.
Oh, that's awesome. Vicki, I'm going to bring you on. I'm going to bring all three of us on. I just didn't want to surprise you, which I did anyhow. So I'm going to ask some questions. I just felt I didn't prepare one with just me and one of you. So this is why. Jill wants to know, Angela, how do I start? Should I join a gym?
That's a great question. Jill, I don't know your situation, meaning I don't know if you have a diagnosis. Does she have a diagnosis of osteoporosis, and would she be comfortable in telling us? If she doesn't want to answer the question, just tell her. She can say, I prefer not to answer.
And I'll look down a little further. We have some other questions too. So Jill, if you're still on.
And the reason why I'm saying this, the reason why I'm saying this is because if you have osteoporosis, you have to have a checkup first to find out what is appropriate for you before you embark upon this. Because oftentimes I find people will see the workout, will see what I'm doing, and get very eager and enthusiastic. But you must remember, it takes time and patience to understand what's going on with your body. So the best way to begin is to find out more about how advanced it might be if you have the diagnosis, and if you don't, great. To join a gym, people don't know how to work like this with people who have chronic health concerns. So that is, I'm going to just be honest with you. If you can find somebody who has the training in their background of working with I'll call myself a senior. Okay. I don't mind. I kind of feel like I earned the title, and,
but, exactly. Right.
I mean, I'm like aging. I mean, when I got told I had a senior discount coming to me, I was like, bring it on, baby. Thank you. So I've been working with this demographic, for 36, 37 years. That's only who that demographic has been. If you can find somebody, Jill, locally to you, that if you want to work one-on-one with them live in person, then I would look up, well, what's their background working with seniors? And they could be using the word geriatric. I don't get blown away by the terms. It's just that you'll know which direction to go to then.
And one of the things that I want to ask you too, so obviously people have some information about how they could work directly with you down below in the description, and also how to get in contact and follow both you and Vicki. So I want to be real clear about that. We were getting lots of great comments about how detailed you were and how much it really put me at ease. I did a lot of the exercises along with you without weights to kind of test it out and see how I feel. And I was like, I'm doing pretty good, right? And I'm big on this counter. I do counter planks all the time because I do sometimes have problems with my wrist. But I often, if I'm feeling stronger one day than another, I just go back a little further.
Kathy, I want you to show me how you do those counter planks, please.
Okay, normally I'm like, if I'm starting first, I'm about here, and then I'm going down. So I did take yoga for a long time. So like we did a thing where we would do downward dog. I do this a lot when I'm cooking all day. I'll do, because I can hold here and I know I'm pulling back more correctly. And you correct me if I'm wrong. And then I come up into a plank, and then I'll go into a cobra, let my heels lift off.
Okay.
And then if I'm really trying to plank it, and if I've been doing this a lot, I will go back a little further. And I don't know if that's good or not, but
okay. I want to give you a little tip, okay?
Sure. And I could do
think-
it this way if this helps too.
Let me see.
Let's go about here. And then down.
Okay, so push-ups. You do a push-up is what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I usually do a push-up. I start in downward dog just to pull everything and get everything right. Then I'll go up into a push-up.
All right.
And
now
then
I want to
sometimes into a
yes.
cobra.
Okay. Now this is what I want to see from you. Okay. Because of what you do, Vicki, this is important for you as well. Okay. Because the both of you cook. Life is all about what's out in front of us. And that takes us into forward flexion. I had a conversation with Dr. Frank Sabatino about this. I said, the one movement I wish everybody would incorporate throughout the course of their day was more back extension to just offset everything. You're cooking, it's all here. You're bending down, you're getting your utensils, this, that, your pots, your pans. Everything is out in front of you. Your computer work. So I love the fact that you're getting that sort of standing version of the Cobra. I'd like to see you work with this back extension. It's not about how far you go, Kathy. All right. It's not about how I love to go for it. I have to because I lift a lot of weight. I carry a lot of heavy things. I want to do this kind of real back bending. So I would like to see you just simply incorporate this movement. You don't have to go crazy. Look at me. I want to see what your hand is doing.
Oh.
Okay.
This way?
Yeah. Now, don't lead with your chin. Lead with your hips going forward. It's about the
okay.
forward. All right. And then there you go. See the difference, Vicki? You see the difference? There she goes. Vicki's doing it. Right. Now, Vicki,
yeah, I can go much further that way.
That's right. Vicki, how is your neck?
Good. I could go all the way back with my neck. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, because I know you practice yoga. So that is a movement I'm going to tell everybody. Incorporate some tiny little, the opposite side with the camera. I don't know where I am. So
you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay. So that's the one thing I want to tell everybody is please do some back extension throughout the course of your day.
Okay.
All right. And I want to step back and give the platform to Miss Vicki. Thank you so much.
Well, I got a couple of questions and then we'll get to you.
You okay, Vicki?
You're doing okay time-wise,
Of
Vicki?
Course.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So, and I'm just going to read a couple of these comments, and they don't all have to be all the way addressed. Like Adriana is saying, I'm hoping I'll be able to reverse my balance and stability issues as well as not found the exact source and she has an involuntary right hand movement. And so she says that she sees she has to work her way up to some of these exercises. And that's totally awesome. And while I said just now, I worked along, I was not holding the 18-pound weights because I know I'm not ready for the 18-pound weights yet. And I can get very nervy about things like I don't like to be up high on a bike. So if I'm going to ride a bike, I literally will walk it through the path I'm going to do. So it's okay to do whatever little extra things you need to be comfortable. I agree with Angela like a bazillion% about talking with your doctor, about finding someone who understands your condition. Same thing is like it's nice to have for a doctor, but like right now, there are very few people I would want to personal train with, like to have as my personal trainer. I don't want a 19-year-old yoga model who's going to be like, I don't know why you can't flip that foot over your head, right? I want to deal with someone who really has more life experience personally right now. Now, there are other people who are younger who can help me with other things, but that's how I feel most comfortable.
Kathy, can I just add a little something to that for you? Is that okay? Because I agree. I totally agree with what you're saying. Adriana, it sounds to me like you could be a candidate for physical therapy. And like
that's a good point.
All right. Now, a physical therapist is not going to help her be able to regain her body, her bone and muscle strength. Very few are designed for that, okay? But they're out there, and I could suggest Eileen Kopsakis. However, if you decide that you want to work with a trainer, that trainer has to be able to have conversations with your medical team. That trainer has to be able to talk to that physical therapist, because just so that you know, when I work with somebody, it's not about working with me. I'm bringing this out to you to what you need to look for when you work with somebody, okay? You need to work with somebody who is willing to converse with your doctors, your physical therapists. I don't care if you don't go to doctors and maybe you go to naturopaths. I don't care who it is, but they need to have these conversations. And I'm going to tell your audience what 3 questions everyone must ask if they're working with a trainer. Everyone must ask the trainer to ask your medical team these 3 questions. Number 1, are there any contraindicated movements for you as an individual? Look, there is a known protocol of exercises for osteoporosis, right? But where we go off track is that we have people who are saying, they're prescribing or assigning you a specific protocol of exercises, but they're not specific to you and your needs. So you need to find out that question. Any movements contraindicated for you as the patient. Then I want you to find out, are there any movements contraindicated for your medications? So notice I said use a towel under the head if you're medicated or not for hypertension, because oftentimes people who are medicated for hypertension think they don't have hypertension any longer.
Right.
They still do. They're being medicated for it. So if you have that little lift of the head, it will help. The third question is ask I don't care if it's the physical therapist, the medical doctor, are there any movements you can suggest I do with your patient? Anything you think the patient could benefit from? That's all you need is 3 questions, and that will unfold a world of options of exercises. I don't care what the diagnosis is. Those are the questions that will help that trainer create a really good personalized program for you.
That's awesome. And that is super, super, super important. So thank you for sharing that with us, because I think I know myself too. Sometimes I feel like I'm being helped instead of being a consumer, right? Because
Yes.
and not that, I don't want to be mean consumer or anything. However, if I'm buying carrots, I'm going to look at the carrots and find the one I think looks best for me, right? It's, so I think that, and we often don't do that with doctors. You're a doctor. I'm not supposed to say anything, so I'm just going to do the thing. So it's really great and a new way that I think is important for us to orient our thinking so that we can have better, healthier lives. So there's a few more questions. I'm going to try and get through these quick. Some easy ones. Linda says, do you recommend or do you think that people must wear shoes when doing these exercises? Barefoot, shoes, or does it matter?
It does matter. It does matter. And I can't answer that question specific to any individual because I don't know what's going on with your feet, okay?
Right.
So I'm going to say, in general, wear your sneakers when you work out. It's not a lot of protection. However, I'm telling you, I have seen people break their toes. Literally, weight has dropped down because they've gone barefoot when they're strength training. So, and that's not older people who have done that, by the way. Okay. So for whatever that's worth, I say, put your shoes on. Then you can always find out further medically, hey, do I need to wear these? Am I stable enough to stand? Do my toes grip? Do I have like pronation? Do my feet do any of these weird things? I don't know those. I don't know those answers for you. But
those are great questions to give them. So I'm going to go to the next one. Leah Ann Long wants to know, what weight would you recommend for beginners? Because obviously you're using the grown-up weights, which I would be using the baby weight. I have strong legs, weak arms.
That's very typical of females. It's a very female thing. So I can't suggest a weight. What I suggest is no external resistance to begin the work. All right. I gave you the whole approach to the workout here without any resistance. Now, I would tie in, where did I put that thing? I would tie in the fit ball. All right. You could use the fit ball for form. Then when you start to go with weights, well, I don't know if you have hand issues, if you can even hold a weight. If you can't hold a weight, then I'm going to suggest purchase adjustable wrist weights, quarter-pound increments. All right.
Great idea. That's a great, because sometimes my wrists don't hurt and I can do the weights. And when I do yoga, I use a special block so that I'm not putting pressure on those wrists. But
Right.
I did not, this seems silly, but I haven't thought about wrist weights probably since the 90s. I don't know that,
I
right?
use them all the time. I use them all the time in my videos. That's how I will get stronger, because it's for some of us, we can't jump 3 to 5 pounds in increments. It's too much. Okay.
Hmm.
But if I can go up a quarter of a pound at a time, I'm telling you, that's how you get stronger.
That's so awesome. Like, okay, so like that is an amazing, amazing, amazing tip, because it's the same thing. So we got a whole set of weights, and like, so Cheryl will use the 5 pound weights, and I'm like, ooh, I moved up to the 3 pounds, and I'm very excited.
There
Three
you
to
go.
five is a long way.
That's right. That's right. And so, but a quarter, half a pound, very
Love
doable.
it.
That's why I don't say, I can't tell her what to start with, because I don't know where she's at right now.
Absolutely. And I think it was really good that you reinforced that you can do it without any weights at all to begin
Yeah,
with. And I know
definitely.
me as a non-exercise person, most of the time, again, I will follow the motions to make sure my back is kind of correct. From doing some yoga and some other things I do, I can look in the mirror and feel and usually be okay with that. So for me, not being a weight person, I'd rather know my back is where it's supposed to be and then add whatever tiny weight I have and see if it still stays that way. And again, I'm not the exercise professional, but that's what I do for me to try and help myself not hurt myself, which I'm great at.
But the more you work out, the more you move your body, the more kinesthetic awareness you create,
Mhm.
proprioception, awareness of your space and time, the place that you're in. That's what happens. So, yes, I do believe that people are very savvy, especially people who exercise on no matter what level, they're very savvy about what's going on with their bodies.
I think that's really great. We'll take this question, and if there are any other questions for exercise, we'll hold it till after Vicky's. But Mona would like to know, Angela, how would you know Mona too, I think. Yeah, how would you modify the lunges for someone with a partial medial meniscus tear? If you
If you
have the answer to.
if you have a tear, if you already have a tear, you have to find out if knee flexion work at all is okay for you. All right. So that means, because if I'm stepping out and I'm bending, right? Let me get back here. I'm bending the knee. I don't know. If you have a tear, that is an injury. If you have if you're recovered and you're healed, it depends upon the range of motion that your knee is capable of. All right. Because she might be capable of it. But if that's not a recovered tear, I'm not telling her to do any flexion work right now until her doctor or her physical therapist says, yeah, she can do it. And then you want to find out to what degree she can handle that bend of the knee.
Okay, no, that sounds great. And that does sound like if you have a tear, you may also be working with some sort of physical therapist on trying to get over that hump. So I would ask them too if that's something you can do.
Absolutely.
Um, so Vicki, I'm going to put you on the screen. Angela, if you want to mute yourself, you can. If not, just know that I can't. And so now we get Miss Vicki Brett-Gach giving us something really yummy that we practice and deserve at this point, right? So I've done my exercises, and what goodies do you have for me?
Well, thank you for that. And Angela, thanks for the inspiration. It's always so much fun to watch you do your workout and get ideas about how we can all feel stronger. So now, with that in mind, I am preparing for you something that you can prepare at home. And I'm going to show you how to do this super easy, super clean food, and you can kind of customize it just like you will the exercises to what you like and how much time you have and whatever ways you have favorites. So we're going to start with the sweet potatoes. So you'll notice in the recipe that I shared with you, I'm asking for you to take 4 sweet potatoes and roast them. And the way we do that is take the potato and you scrub it under water. And then I'm slicing off the ends because that gives the potato room for the steam to escape while it's baking. There's some flexibility with different methods. You can microwave your potato, but I'm putting this in the oven because I've got 4 of them. So I'm roasting them for about an hour. I say that depending on the size of your potato, you can take a look at about 50 minutes and see if it feels like it's done, but it might take an hour. It might take a little more than an hour if it's a big giant potato. And so that's completely up to you in your oven. You could actually roast it at 350 or 375. I go a little higher because it tends to make it just get done a little faster. And I'm an impatient person. You can ask my husband. It's a problem, but I do the best I can with that limitation. So I stick this in the oven. I've got 4 potatoes. And what I've done after I've washed them and sliced the ends off, if you want to, you can kind of poke them again with a knife or a fork to give it additional room for the steam to escape. I put it into a roasting pan. I know some people put it right into the oven on the, just right in there on the shelf. I put it into a pan just in case there's any kind of dripping at all so that I don't have to worry about it on the bottom of the oven when I'm done and smell that burning juices as it's
That
cooking.
is such a great idea, Vicki. And I will tell you, my Breville oven air is it's time for me because on the bottom, I do that. I just poke them and put it in, and it drips all that beautiful, delicious juice. But no,
It
that's
is. It
smarter.
is beautiful and delicious, but it does burn and it does get sticky and it's kind of tricky to clean. So I'm lazy and impatient. Now you know 2 of my flaws. And I like to put it in a pan just because it's going to make it so easy to clean up at the end. So I have put these in the oven just before we went on air today. And so they're still warm, but I would normally suggest that you could either do these ahead if you want to. You could even do them the night before, the day before. You can do, I say 4 potatoes. You could do 6 or 8 or how many ever you think you might enjoy during the week ahead. But what we're trying to do is kind of prepare something so it's ready for you after your workout so you can have the ideal meal full of nutrition and fiber and nutrients that will get you just re-energized and yet again keeping it really simple. So that's the first step. We're going to layer it with beans and with greens. And if you want to, you could just do one or the other because this is your kitchen and you can do whatever works for you. I'm going to show you how I did the greens in just a second, but just for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and get our beans prepared on the stove, and it's just a matter of heating 2 ingredients. So what I'm doing is taking the equivalent of 1 can of black beans. Now I'm using black beans that I prepared ahead in my Instant Pot and froze in 1.5 cup servings in my freezer. But you can also use a can of beans that you rinse and drain, and that's what I usually do. But lately I've just kind of gotten the extra enjoyment out of making my own from a package of, a 1 pound package of beans. Again, you can use any kind of bean you want. It wouldn't have to be black beans. Any can of beans that you have handy. In fact, varying it from 1 week to another is kind of fun as well. But I've got 1 can of black beans worth of beans, so about 1.5 cups that I froze and thawed. And by the way, I can tell you how I did it in the Instant Pot, which Kathy can as well. But I just put it in, I took 1 bag, 1 pound of black beans, sorted and rinsed them, and without even soaking them, I put them into a large pressure cooker, added 5 cups of water, put it on high pressure for 25 minutes. And then when it got to high pressure and came back down, I allowed it to go all the way through the natural pressure release process to get itself all the way down to no pressure, and then opened the lid carefully and have these fabulous beans. I always have a wide variety of canned beans in my pantry because that is so convenient. That's just always my go-to. But lately I've been making beans from scratch because they actually taste so much better and they're so easy to passively work while you're doing something else. So I've been
And they're
inspired all
cheap.
over. They're so cheap. You're making 4 to 6 cans worth of beans, depending on, in my experience. Kathy, you're much more experienced with this. Plus, you've got your bean book. You can tell people how to do this in your sleep. So that's all I did as well, and then allowed them to cool and put them into individual bags that had about a cup and a half each. Again, about a can's worth, so that they're ready to pull out and add to anything from a tofu scramble to making tacos with them or creating bean burgers or whatever. So here we're going to use them today in this very simple way that we're going to top our potatoes. So I'll get right to that. I've got half of a cup of salsa. So just any kind of salsa you like. I bought a big jar from Costco, and that's what I've been using lately. I'm giving this a quick stir. I'm adding, you wouldn't have to, I'm adding a little bit of salt and pepper. If you wanted to, you could add a little bit of smoked paprika. Again, just to taste. You could add a little bit of Cajun seasoning. Again, if you like a little bit of a bite to it, but you don't have to. And we've just got this mixture of what could be simpler, black beans, canned generally, with some salsa. And I'm just going to heat this up. And so while this is heating, I'll show you what we do with the greens. So I'm just turning this on to again, I'm impatient, so it's kind of between high and medium. I just want it to warm through. And then I'm going to show you what we did with our greens. So first, before I do talk about the greens, I'm going to take our potatoes and just slice them open. They're still kind of warm, but definitely ready to hold, to touch. They're not hot. And I bought 4 potatoes yesterday, and all from the same section at Whole Foods. And guess what? When I'm opening them up here, I've got 3 that are orange and 1 that is white. And yet they were all in the same
Somebody
pile,
put it in the wrong place, but they'll all be equally delicious. So that's great to know. You could make this with white sweet potatoes or regular sweet potatoes.
That's right. In fact, you could make it with white potatoes as well. So you could make it with any kind of potato. So I'm just slicing them open and then just kind of fork mashing them. As simple as this. Nothing fancy here. And then I'm going to put it on a little platter. These potatoes, which are around probably about 4.5 or 5 inches, probably about 5 inches wide, took about an hour. Here, let's pull this one back. Move this. And we'll just mash these up. And this white sweet potato is going to be especially sweet. So we've just got our potatoes, and I'm just going to put them on a platter here so that I'll show you the next step from here. Let's move them like this so they all fit. Pull this back so you can see it. And then our next step is to top them. And the first thing I'm going to top it with is the greens. And here's what I did. This took about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to give my beans a stir while I'm telling you this. And then I think we are all the way, it's kind of simmering, and so we'll call this warming through for this purpose. And so now what I did is make greens. And here's how simple these greens are. I kind of figured out during COVID, when we were having a little harder time finding the ingredients as easily and as often as I wanted to, that I really especially loved having a freezer full of frozen greens. So I buy fresh greens every week normally and use them in a salad or cook with them as well. But I always have frozen greens in my freezer as well. So I always have spinach and kale and whatever else is handy that I come upon. And so in this recipe, I'm taking 2 packages of frozen spinach or kale or a mixture, And while it's still frozen, I haven't even thawed it, I'm putting it right into a skillet. Underneath that skillet is 1 chopped shallot. And if you can't find a shallot, you can use a small onion. I just mince up this shallot or onion at the base of the pan and cover it literally with a package of a big block of frozen spinach. And I did that while Angela was working so that it could be ready now. But I literally put this frozen stuff right on top, and I allowed the heat to gradually do 2 things at once. It was like a combination movement that Angela does. It was both cooking my onion, my shallot, and thawing my greens. And so what happened as the greens started to thaw, it released a lot of moisture. And so now this moisture is doing all that it needs to kind of help deglaze the pan as these onions or shallots underneath are cooking. And so all I did was stir it a couple of times, give it kind of kind of scrape it so nothing was sticking. And I like it kind of extra dried out, so I allowed it to cook down to be kind of dried out greens, because that's how I like them. You wouldn't need to do that. But they're not burned, they're just dark, and because there's just a little, they're dark greens. But at this point, I could add a little bit of salt and pepper. You could add hot sauce. You could kind of do whatever you like. But we're ready to build our potatoes now. So first thing that we're doing, and again, you can do this in any order you like. You could just stop and eat these sweet potatoes and you'd be all set. But I'm going to top it with my greens. So we've got, if you think about it, with 2 packages of greens, you could use, again, as little or as much of these greens as you want. If you love greens or are trying to find ways to fit more into your meals, then you'll want to pile these high. If you're new to greens and you're not sure you like them, maybe you want to be a little bit more, top these a little more gingerly and use the extra greens in something else another time. But we're getting a lot of greens per potato here. If I use all of this, it's a half a package of, a pound package or almost a pound of spinach or kale, that we're just loading these up. So we've got lots of greens on here. I'll move this aside here.
I love it. They're so pretty already, Vicki.
They're pretty already, right? So they're fun. And so now the next thing I'm going to do is take this is not the most colorful part, but we've got so much nutrition and flavor in these beans. So now we're just going to take the beans, and again, same idea. If you're new to beans and you're not sure that your digestion is accommodating, you might use just a little bit. And if you're very comfortable with beans and like the flavor, then you'll want to take a lot of them and just load them up high like this. And if not, you want to use these beans in something else throughout the week. They're just ready to use any way you like. I'm just going to pile it up because why not?
Right? That's what I would do too. You don't want to store like a 1/4 cup of beans necessarily, though you could do other things with it. Apple had a great idea and said if you added some mushrooms to the shallots and sprinkled some cranberries and pumpkin seeds on top, you have your whole G-bombs if you're following, which I always get the G-bombs. G-bombs is Dr. Furman, right?
Dr. Furman, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So now we've got our beans covering, our spicy beans covering our sauteed greens and shallots with our potatoes. And then on top of that, we can just sprinkle a little bit of cilantro or parsley, if you're so inclined, which I am. And that gives it a nice brightness on top of that. And so these are ready to serve. And these are, delicious for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so this is the recipe that I just shared with you, super easy, and you could stop anywhere along the way. I'm just going to show you one other thing I just thought of when I was pulling the cilantro out of my refrigerator today. I always store my salads in jars. I have a little bit left over from last night. So I'm just going to take a handful of a very simple salad and give it a very rough chop. Make room for it over here. Nothing fancy in here, some radicchio, some romaine, and some, just a little bit of, cucumber, carrots. I'm just going to put a little fresh greens salad on top because it just adds a few more lovely flavors and textures. And so this is another idea I just had because I had this in my refrigerator. I made ranch dressing. I have a little ranch dressing. It's on my website and in my cookbook. And I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of ranch dressing over the top. And now we've got, the salad on top of the potatoes and the beans and the greens, and just, this is just a lovely, if I was putting all of this, which I am, I'm not going to eat all of this at once. I normally wouldn't put the salad dressing on top, but I thought it'd be fun to show you. I would only do it on the one I'm going to eat at that time. But there we are, just kind of an easy leftovers, whatever. You could stop at any point along these layers and just enjoy. So there we are.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm going to go back to the 3 cameras, ladies, just letting everybody know. So we do have a couple of questions for Vicki. And everybody's saying they look so good, and they really do. And I love how you've taken something, like if you look at that, that's very elegant. If you said, oh, I want you to make this for dinner tonight, I'm going to be like, that looks really hard, right? Because I don't know if I'm the
I
only
don't
one.
make things that are hard, Kathy. That's my secret.
I have a
I don't
whiny
make anything
child
that's hard.
inside of me sometimes. It's like, no, but I don't want to do that. And then I'm like, you can whine about it for 20 minutes or dinner could be done. Pick one,
Dinner can be
right?
done. Yeah, this wasn't hard because I don't do hard stuff. I'm too lazy. So I like to have things that are super easy, but super delicious and super good for us.
I think flavor is really important. You and I have that same viewpoint, especially when you're trying to shift your diet a little bit. So I think a lot of people think you either eat the standard American diet and you have lots of flavorful food, or you eat raw vegetables. And there's not a lot in between for a lot of people. So it's so good for people to see these demos. And I love what you were saying. You could have cooked the sweet potatoes ahead of time. You could have already had the beans together and then just literally microwaved, if you microwave, or put in the air fryer and heat it up, and then add your salad or toppings on top of
Or
that
not.
too.
Or
Right?
not.
Or
Or
not.
you
And
could
I
leave
like
those
that
off.
too.
Or maybe add a little seeds if you want to, or olives, or completely whatever you happen to have handy. Any of your extra G-bombs. This is just a great place to add your mushrooms and your, anything else that you need to have to get where you need to be that day.
I think that's great. And Betsy says, do you wash the greens and then freeze them, or do you put fresh greens like from the clamshell or bag in the freezer? How do you usually do that?
So I just bought, let's see if I have one to show you. I just bought frozen greens. So what you are looking at is like this, just a bag of frozen greens. And part of why I like this is because they're already washed. That's another really lovely advantage. They're already washed, they're already cut and ready to just saute. So if you're cooking greens, although I often will cook fresh because that's what I have handy for some other reason, it's probably way, way, way cheaper and more efficient to use greens that are frozen. Someone else did all that work for you for a couple of dollars. You've got this huge package, because if you've ever cooked fresh greens, you know that they shrink down to the tiny teaspoonful at the end. And even these shrink, but not nearly as much as, when you're starting with a big box of fresh that hasn't even been blanched to this point yet. So so I love using frozen greens. It's one of the most convenient, ways to add greens. If you have something like this, you don't need to cook the whole package like I did today. I did 2 packages, but if you wanted to, you could have this as an ongoing thing. You grab a handful and add to a soup that you're making or eating. And if this is not something you're used to eating, you can kind of build up, as I mentioned. You don't have to cover your whole potatoes, mounded with it. You can have, it's to taste. Everything is to taste. So whatever you like in your kitchen, no judgment. It's all up to you to enjoy what you are preparing and just make sure you're giving your body what it needs today.
That's awesome. I've been putting up some little notes. That's what Angela's been coming up to read because she's like me, like I'm right up on my computer. I'd be like, what's going on? And so you're getting lots of it. Looks good. Mona says she had me at ranch. It looks delicious. Nice hearty meal. Apple, as well as myself, are offering to come over and help eat them. I was going to
Thank you.
ask you,
Please
like,
do. Hi,
when
Apple.
is your flight coming in? Because I'm starting to get hungry and I'm
I'll
ready
pick
for
you up
some
at the
dinner.
airport, I promise.
I'm gonna beat Apple to that door. I'm gonna beat Apple to that door, man. That was so good. Could I,
You know,
could
and the
Right?
I,
other
We
thing that's kind of nice about this is it's perfect, truly, after this workout, but it's also great for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's just a great meal. And if you wanted to kind of morph this into something new after this version, the next time, you could warm this up and take the skin off of the potato. Maybe some people eat the skin of the sweet potato. I don't tend to do that unless it's air fried. But I would scoop everything out with the beans, the greens, and the salad and stick that into a tortilla, like an Ezekiel whole grain tortilla, or the whatever you like to put this inside of, and create a big, lovely, tortilla or burrito, basically, with this all of these lovely filling.
Kathy? I
yes,
wanted to
ma'am.
add something. I wanted to add something to this because um, when you do this type of a workout, right, or any type of workout, my whole thing was I, I don't want to have a whole big concoction to put together. I don't have the energy for it. I just want to eat. And this is the type of recipe that when Vicki came up with the basics of it, right? It's just perfect for post training because it's part of the process of recovering from a workout. That's very, very important, particularly for people with chronic concerns. So it's how you execute the exercise, but then it's what you fuel yourself with post exercise. If you go and you go off and you eat a bag of potato chips and eat some Oreo cookies, this is not going to serve you, and will only, if you have inflammation processes going on, it will only harm that. This approach to working out and this approach to the food, so simple with the plant-based eating, allows somebody to be able to recover from the workout. I'm going to be 67. I work out like this all the time, day after day after day. Why do you think that is? Because be careful about the exercise, the choice of the exercises, and I'm careful with the food because that's
Mhm.
how I recover. And then, of course, you get your proper rest in between. This workout, by the way, is not meant to be done daily. So you never want to do it on you want to do it on non-consecutive days. But how you eat is just as important as the workout in that recovery process.
That's really great and really important. And I like that you stated explicitly not to do this particular workout every day because I tend to be, my nature, I am an all or nothing person. So I'm working on that. I'm 59. So I think I might be almost 59 and a half now. I'm very excited because I get to turn 60 and be super cool because I think that's awesome. Like getting older is way better than the alternative for anyone who's worried about aging. But I am also the only person I know that got, like, for 4 years I was super excited about turning 40. I knew that was going to be my decade, and it was. It literally
Mhm.
was. So um, I think as we age, if you're aging from 20s to 30s or 50s to 60s, you do kind of have to reevaluate and think about that. And I think it's really important that we start addressing how each one of us can find our own way to movement as well, and how we can stretch that, as well as like what Vicky's saying is, as soon as you make something, then we kind of start experimenting. And so Angela's given us a really nice foundation to kind of play around with some of that as well. And you guys should know the chat has been really nice. It's probably not going to process and be up on the YouTube channel, the chat, for about 24 hours or so. It's up to YouTube. I have nothing to do with it. But the replay will be available immediately. So if you kind of came in near the end and you're like, well, it's time for my workout, you'll be able to start it up at the beginning. And I will try to even get some timestamps on there before the end of the week so that it'll be easier for you to come back. Do you guys have anything else you want to add before we go for the day?
Vicki,
I just want to say what a pleasure it is to be with you both. Kathy, thank you so much for having us. Angela, it's really fun to do this program with you and to be inspired by the work that you do. And you know, you're so knowledgeable. It's very exciting to learn more from you every time. And yeah, so if anyone has any questions, I invite you to reach out to me through AnnArborVeganKitchen.com. And that's in the notes that Kathy's sharing. Let me know if you have any questions or if I can help in any way. And it's lovely to be with you all.
It's just so great to have both of you because I do literally think you both are amazing, and you both show up in the community a lot too, so people know who you are, and I think that's helpful. But you guys both explain things so well, and you have this open kindness too, and I appreciate that. Oh, Ryan says he was excited to turn 30 and 40. All right, that's a man after my own heart because I was like, woohoo. And Angela, thank you again for being so detailed about everything because I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for myself. I certainly felt the way you explained things, I felt comfortable coming back here and doing them again. And so I wanted to give you that feedback because I'm like remedial exercise girl. So I was getting a lot of feedback through the time. And I think what you've done, both of you have done, is showcase that you can have some movement in your life. You can have some really nice vegetables in your life. And it doesn't mean that you have to throw everything else out because you got to exercise 3 hours a day and now you've got to cook the 4 hours a day, and there's little baby steps that you can make. Like if you're not sure about green, Cheryl wouldn't eat greens at all and now she asks for greens all the time. So just allow yourself that space to grow and try new things, and you might surprise yourself. And thank you guys so much for coming on, and hopefully you'll come back on again because I would love to have you both on. And I think everybody's just saying thank you. Oh, I do have one last question for Angela, which is, what does Angela think of using a weighted vest while walking? Why do I think you're going to get one?
Well, here's mine. Okay, so that tells you what I think. I'll give you a couple of tips, okay? So the weighted vests, I've been wearing a weighted vest since the beginning of the pandemic when I do my fitness walks, because of the times when the gyms were closed, this and that. Now, how I began was by wearing wrist weights, and I began with 1/4 pound in each, and I built up, and then I moved. Once it's like over 2 pounds, it gets kind of weirded for me with wrist weights. So I then changed over to a 6 pound weighted vest because I was already up to like 4 or 5 pounds with the wrist weights. So I moved on to a 6 pound weighted vest. Now, the problem with preset unadjustable weighted vests is, I'm telling you, they're going to get moldy and skunky. You can't wash them. You can't do anything with them. The weights they get disgusting, especially if you work out the way that I do. So, which means you're going to beat the crap out of your stuff. Okay. So, and then I wore one of the vests where it was like, okay, I could put my arms through it and then clip like right here, like a buckle. I have an old video on my YouTube channel about weighted vests. I think I might have 1 or 2. And the problem with those vests, I don't care what they tell me, unless you're a flat-chested female, and I mean flat, then wearing that vest and trying to clip it, the buckle goes, it's supposed to go over here, up here at the
Yeah.
sternum, but it drops down and it winds up across your breast tissue. So I was wearing the vest upside down. So until it broke, because it's not really intended to be worn that way. So I shifted over to over the head weighted vests. And I'm now at 12 and a half pounds in the weighted vest when I fitness walk, because Harvard Health discusses not wearing anything above 10% of your body weight for your weighted vests. If you have osteoporosis, do not wear the vest yet. You must find out if your spine can handle additional weight. Now, by additional weight, I mean, well, most weighted vests don't have quarter pound increments, but if you have some old adjustable weights, wrist wearable weights, you're going to have those smaller increments. That's what I did with the weighted vest to build up to 12 and a half pounds. What I didn't go 1 pound increments. I put my little rods in the thing. I didn't care. And then I pull them out and put the 1 pound weight to replace them. Another tip with weighted vests is you want to have it slightly weighted, slightly heavier on the back than on the front, because it's odd. Because you'll go splat right down because of the extra additional weight up front. So with the 12 and a half pounds, I have 6 pounds on the front and 6.5 pounds distributed on my back. You don't only want to have it weighted in one part, because some of the vests are like that as well. So look for adjustable, and look for over the head, because the adjustable ones, you can take them out and wash the vest. One final tip about weighted vests. I think I'm going to do a tips and tricks video for you folks on a weighted vest. Okay, one final thing. When you if you're thinking about wearing a vest, they don't breathe. These are hot polyester made type stuff. These are not like eco-friendly, okay? So if you're thinking about wearing the vest, don't put any weights in it. Wear it, just wear it. See if you can handle the heat of it. And especially if you're going to do it outside. All right, wear them outside. It will make a difference to your body temperature. And then you can gradually add little by little the weights to it. But be patient. Be patient. That's the big message from me, Kathy. Be patient with yourself with all of this. It took me 3.5 years to downgrade osteoporosis. People want to have instant gratification through a pill. It's not going to happen, but have patience. And also stay with your communities. This whole community thing you got going on, cooking with Kathy Hester, man, this is important stuff, because you don't usually have the people at home telling you, you can do it. You have people at home oftentimes telling you, I don't want you to do it. Don't do it. Or I'm afraid if you do it. You don't need those voices. You need the community. You don't want to dismiss people that you love, but you can't focus on that negative crap, because if you want to affect pathology, if you want to affect a diagnosis, you've got to stay on track for yourself with people who understand and can support you, not people who take you down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that goes even for diet change. It goes for everything, because I will even say there are some people that I am separating a different way. Like, I can do some things with you, but you're not going to be supporting me in my oil-free eating. And that's okay. We don't need to talk about that. So you can, depending on where you are with all this, but it is wonderful to come here and have a community. And this community it's whole food, plant-based, emphasis on no oil, but it doesn't matter if you're Dr. Furman, Dr. Greger, whoever you follow, or you're just like, hey, I think I'm going to try this and see what happens. It's a space that you can come here and get supported and ask questions and be curious. So I appreciate that very much. And Angela, when you do your tips and tricks about vests, Ryan is wondering if there's an affordable brand you recommend, and maybe if you could put some links to a few of the different ones. I think that would be helpful, and make sure that you email me, and I will share that out in my email newsletter too.
I also have them on my Amazon shop. I have
Okay, and the links down below in for the equipment are Angela's links, so that should take you somewhere thereabouts, I think.
I have a whole thing on wearable weights.
Awesome. Because what happens now, like even with milk makers, so like when I started reviewing milk makers, there were like 6, and now there's like 50. So literally, like I can't do all of those, but I can give you the ones that I think are really good. So with manufacturing right now, whatever there was one of, there's 100 of right now. So sometimes that's good because you can get something nice cheaper, but sometimes if you don't know what to look for, if I went to look for a weighted vest in Amazon right now, I would spend 3 hours.
I can tell Ryan the brand. The brand is CAP, C-A-P.
CAP.
Right?
Okay, yeah. Awesome. Okay, ladies, and thank you so much again for sharing all your knowledge and wisdom with the community. We really appreciate you. We appreciate you here live today. We appreciate you when you're hanging out with us. You're just awesome. And you guys, if you have some questions, obviously contact them. All their information is down below. Or if you want to leave some comments, they might pop in and answer some of them too. You never know. They're nice that way. Okay, you guys, do something really nice and kind for yourself, whatever that is. If that means eating what Vicki made, if it means taking a walk. Today it is like 77 is the high. It's been like crazy hot. So the house has been open all day and I've stayed home, and that's been my real present to myself. And it can be something tiny. Or it could be, if you're lonely, call a friend. Maybe see if a friend wants to take a walk with you. And if you just can't people, because sometimes I can't people, maybe on a walk you'll find a nice dog to pet. That's my favorite non-peopling activity. Find a dog, a cat, and just, be kind, be gentle with yourself. And I tell you that because I'm not always gentle with myself, okay? And don't forget, we're going to have another live on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's our normal one with Stacy Cross, but Tiffany is also coming, so we'll have both of Dr. McDougall's health specialists on the call to answer your questions. So hopefully I'll see you then, and you guys just have the very best rest of your week.